Hello and welcome to the Dance Yourself Brave show, where we get real about the struggles dancers face, from confidence battles to self-doubt, and how dance has the power to make us braver, stronger, and more unstoppable in every area of life. I'm your host, Mariana Santos, founder of Brazily Fitness. And whether you're a seasoned dancer, a dance instructor, dance lover, or someone who's always wanted to dance but feels a little intimidated to start, this show is for you. Expect honest conversations, inspiring stories, and simple ways to bring more dance into your life, whether that's in the studio, on stage, or right in your living room. And if you're a dance instructor, we've got you covered with tips on how to grow your dance business, attract more students, and create a bigger impact through your passion for movement. So if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, own your movement, and dance yourself brave, let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Dance Yourself Brave show. I'm your host, Mariana Santos, and today I want to talk to you about something that's very important: friendships. So sometimes we think that family is the most important thing, and it is, right? Depending on what family you have. But sometimes, you're born into a family that doesn't support you, and you end up finding like your real family through friends. And I want you to think about your best friends that you've had over your life. Maybe there have been moments where they've come to you, feeling a little bit down on themselves, and think about the kind of, advice you've given them. And the reason I want you to think about this is I want you to remember that your best friend is actually yourself. Sometimes we have a habit of talking to ourselves in a way that we would never speak to our best friends. It's something that is so crucial to think about, how the way that we speak to ourselves actually damages our confidence, our self-esteem, and our ability to fight through struggles and just like overcome hurdles that come our way. And it's so powerful to remember that we actually have control over how we speak to ourselves. And sometimes that little voice that you hear that's, that negative talk is actually programming that came from your childhood and just different things that have happened over your life that have led you to have these thought patterns that haven't been helping you along the way. So I want you to think about how you can start to rewire that programming. Because the reality is, like, when we are attempting to do new things, like, remember that our body's job, our brain's job, is to keep us safe no matter what. So remember back in like the caveman days, we wanted to be safe from, predators and things like that, right? Nowadays, life is different, but our mind, our brain still has that same kind of intuition, right? To keep us safe. So what does it mean to keep us safe? It's literally anything that's different or new. Your brain is going to react with like red alert, like do not do this. So anytime this happens, whether that is like starting a new gym program or like, reading a new book, your New Year's resolution was to read a book this year. Anything that's new, expect resistance to come from your brain. It's going to try its hardest to keep you doing what you've always done, because it just thinks that that's safe. Even if those habits haven't made you happy and you've been looking for, new ways to move forward, it's still going to resist when you're trying to break those habits. So that's number one, is just remember that that's going to happen. No matter what new habit you're looking to adopt, expect that resistance from the brain. So when you start to hear that resistance, that little voice saying like, you can't do this, like you might as well quit, I want you to start to speak back to it and be like, you know what? I hear you. Thank you for sharing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Very simple. Say, I hear you. Thanks for sharing. I'm doing it anyway. Anytime you try something new. So it's very important to realize that you have that control, but it's also important to realize this isn't something like you say it once and, things are good, like you're never going to hear that voice again, right? No, you have to do it consistently. So the reason why this is so important for me to share is that sometimes people are, they're very curious about learning how to dance, and they love music and they feel like moving, and they just feel like, well, I never danced as a kid. Especially with social media, sometimes they scroll their feed and they see all these people who make dance look like the easiest thing in the world. And they just think, okay, well, it's not for me. But again, that's your little voice telling you that you can't do things that you absolutely can do. So remember that if you had a friend who came up to you and said, I really want to try this dance class, but I feel like I'm going to look silly, would you tell them, oh yeah, you're right, you're going to look silly, like don't even try? I doubt you would say that, right? So why is it any different when you're talking about yourself and what you want to do? And of course, I'm focused on dance, but this can be anything else, right? So just give yourself grace and realize that it's a journey. And the more kindness you can share with yourself, the easier and more like fun the journey is going to be. So you just have to allow yourself to be your own best friend. And remember that all great things take time, right? I think we're starting to forget that sometimes we see technology as advanced so quickly, and that's made our life more convenient in a lot of ways. But also, mental health issues are on the rise. And I think part of that is because we've learned to expect that life should be easy and we should be able to push a button and have food delivered at our door. But then when we do things that we can't really get help from technology to do, like, going to a gym, no one's going to, like, you can hire a trainer, you can, pay for your membership, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has to show up to do your workouts. And, same thing, if you're going to start a business, yes, there are so many tools that can help you. I know, but at the end of the day, you still have to roll up your sleeves and get the tasks done, right? And you have to act in spite of fear. And, like dance, you have to, no one's going to like turn you into a great dancer, right? You have to be willing to get out there. And again, like, it's just about accepting that the journey, it doesn't need to be easy. Why should it be easy? Because when you go through those ups and downs, that is where the magic happens. When you show to yourself, you prove to yourself that you can do hard things, that's when you build confidence. Because the best way to build confidence is not just being great at something the first time. It's actually about committing to things and keeping promises to yourself. So it's also important to start with like little goals, right? So let's say you want to start dancing, but it feels kind of out of reach. Start with like 5 minutes a day. Pick your favorite playlist. I can actually share in the show notes here our Brazily Dance playlist with all the music we've choreographed over the years. And just like hit play. And while you're, making breakfast, brushing your teeth, like all of that stuff, getting dressed, just have the music play in the background and just dance along to it. Like literally just do what your body feels like doing when it hears that music. And just do that in the beginning of your day and see how that sets the tone for more energy throughout your day. So you can start off with that. And then from there, you can be like, okay, after a few weeks, maybe I can take like a tutorial class on YouTube, something free. Then after, you could progress into like a full online program, or you can find an in-person class, but take consistent action, because the more you do that, the more you're able to reflect back and be like, you know what, I thought this was really hard when I started, but now it's actually not that difficult, right? And that is where your confidence comes, because you start to realize that you can do hard things. Like, just because it was hard the first time, it doesn't mean it has to be hard forever. So that is a lesson that you need to remember for no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish in life. You have to remember that it's who you become as a person along the journey that really matters. It's not the end goal. And I tell people, like, when you start dancing, the least important thing to me is for you to become a professional dancer and like dance on stage and all of that stuff. No, it's about that journey of that self-acceptance and realizing that you don't have to have all the answers, and just keep going. Fine, even if you like tell yourself you have 2 left feet, just dance. Like, no one cares. Like, everyone who comes to a class are in the class for themselves. So we have this habit of thinking like everyone's looking at us, when in reality, there's no time for that, right? Everyone is there for their moment, and they're, try to follow along as best as they can, and just allow yourself to have fun. Just be in the moment. So I mentioned this in our first episode about how I loved in Brazil that they have this like easier way of just living in the present and, not taking things so seriously. I feel like here in Canada and the US, we are very structured and we like to have things very organized, which is great for a lot of things, but it ends up robbing joy from our lives, right? So just living your life with more spontaneity, not feeling like you need to pre-plan everything and have all the answers. Like they have this in Brazil, they're very creative and funny. So there's even something they say in Brazil all the time. It's like Brazilians need to be studied because like they come up with the most hilarious situations. And so like hilarious memes on social media and things like that. And I remember when I moved to Brazil, one of the first things I noticed was, you know how like sometimes you watch a movie and there's this one scene where everyone gets up and the whole cast knows the choreography and you think, okay, well, you know, that's not real life. Like that doesn't really happen. Well, that actually happens in Brazil. Like there are certain songs where like, you go to a party, you go to a club and everyone gets up and they all know the moves. And not that they're all great dancers, but they just participate just to be part of it. You know, it's like the unity that's created through those songs and those dances. And everyone's there just to have a good time. No one's like, you know, just trying to be a better dancer than someone else. No, they're just like using that as a moment to de-stress, right? Forget about whatever else they have going on outside of that environment. So that is why it's so important to just allow yourself to live those moments. And you're not going to do that until you learn to be your own best friend, because you have to realize that you're going to hear that negative self-talk, that resistance coming from your brain, and you have to be able to respond to it and be like, okay, I know you're telling me I shouldn't do this, but something deep inside is telling me I should. So I'm just going to try. And that's how the magic starts to unfold, right? So it can start with like a 5-minute like private dance party in your bathroom to, you know, like you finally applying for that dream job that you've been hesitant to apply for, or that promotion that you feel like you weren't, you know, good enough for, or like taking a new college course that you wanted to apply for, or starting a business, anything. All of that is going to require you to believe in yourself. So I believe that dance is the best way to do that because it teaches you about resilience and confidence and how you can do anything you put your mind to. All right, so that's my message for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if it resonated, please do me a quick favor and leave a review, because that's the best way that we can get this message, spread the dance love across the globe. And maybe you can share this with a friend who would really be inspired by this message to take action towards their dreams and just to love themselves more, because we all deserve love, and not just from others, but especially from ourselves. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll chat with you next time.